Okay, we wanted to continue sharing more recipes that we go to on Medical Keto. So today we are going to be sharing with you our go-to fat bomb recipe. So we will call these chocolate macadamia nut almond butter fat bombs. We make a bunch of different kinds of fat bombs, but these are probably the easiest to make, and so thought these would be a good first one to share. So ingredients you are going to need: coconut oil, macadamia nuts. These are a huge staple for us. They are high fat and probably one of the lowest carb nuts available, but you still kind of got to be careful not to eat too many because there is carbs in it. You're going to need cocoa powder. You're going to need some sort of sweetener. We've been leaning more towards using allulose lately, but you can also use things like monk fruit or erythritol and those sorts of sugar alcohols. You probably don't want to include too many sugar alcohols in your diet. You know what? Nicole told me that you kind of want to stay away from them. But back to my original point, they're kind of nice to ease into medical keto. If you're used to eating a lot of carbs or sweet things, it can be a nice thing to help you transition. And it's also kind of a nice little treat to throw in stuff like this. You're not consuming a large amount of it, but here and there. And then we're going to put in some vanilla extract, and then we are going to top it with salt.
You forgot almond butter.
I didn't take out the almond butter. Almond butter. So we really only have almond butter in our house because our daughter has a peanut allergy, but you could, I suppose, use peanut butter as well. But I found the ones that we've been looking at, almond butter does tend to have less carbs, net carbs. So maybe that's a good choice for that reason as well. Okay, so what you are going to need is this. The recipe I'm going to show you makes a batch of 6. Well, that's just how I divvy it up. I suppose you could make them bigger or smaller depending on what you want. So I typically use muffin trays. They're kind of a good shape and size for it, and they're easy to then take out, and they're individually portioned. Great. In terms of making fat bombs, we've really gotten into like all these different kinds of molds, which are super duper handy for various kinds of fat bombs, various portion sizes you may need. So these are kind of cool. I think we've gotten these all through Amazon. Easy to find. Great. And then you need a bowl, not too big because there's not too much going into this, and you need a whisk to whisk it all together. And then you also need some measuring cups, so you're going to need a 1/3 cup, and then you're going to need, you don't need 2, but 1 tablespoon measuring spoon and 1 teaspoon. All right, get to work. Okay. Okay, so first step, you're going to need 1/3 cup of coconut oil. Another reason why this is one of our absolute go-to fat bomb recipes is that it has a really, really high amount of fat, thanks largely to this. So you're just going to put that into your bowl, and then you are going to pop it into the microwave to melt it just ever so slightly so that it's a little bit easier to mix and work with. I usually put it in for 10 seconds.
I usually put it in for like 35 seconds.
35 seconds. Oh, Rob's right. It's like more like 30 seconds that you wanted to. Okay, this is what we're looking for. So 33 seconds should help you obtain that consistency. Okay, so you have your warmed up coconut oil. Next step is to do 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder and 2 tablespoons of erythritol, or whatever this is, allulose, sugar alcohol. 1. I do like a little bit less because I don't like it as sugary. And then 2 tablespoons of the cocoa powder as well. Oops. And then we're going to do 1 teaspoon of vanilla. I usually cough a little bit when I'm adding vanilla to any baking because it's yummy and it's an excuse to add more. There we go. So with those initial ingredients, I'm just going to use a whisk to stir it up, mix it up before I add in the almond butter as a final step. You don't have to include the almond butter if you don't want to. It wasn't included in the original recipe we were working off of. I just kind of like the added taste of some kind of nut butter in it. Makes it seem more like the peanut butter cups that we used to indulge frequently in. So it's all mixed together. Just going to set this aside. And so I think our recipe calls for about 2 tablespoons, what we have calculated as the macros of this. I kind of usually just eyeball it and do like a big scoop like this. So 2 tablespoons? Sure. Probably a little bit more than 2 tablespoons. That's okay. There you go. Okay, so then you just mix that in as well with the whisk as well. Looks good. So I have my bag of macadamia nuts, and I'm going to try to pick the like biggest whole ones and put 3 like that at the bottom of each fat bomb. And then what we're going to do after this is pour the chocolate mixture over top. And then you get this like delightful crunchy nut texture in it as well. So now we are going to add these to each of them. So I usually just kind of try to make them as even as possible by doing 1 kind of tablespoon at a time in each of them. It's probably going to end up being about 2 tablespoons that you put into each one, but I just want to try to make them as even as possible. And so it is really, really quick and easy to make these. They're a super easy way to just have a tasty and high fat little snack, fat bomb, if you will. So it's all divvied up into these 6 different fat bombs. And I often forget this last step, but it's really nice. It adds very nicely to the taste of these. And it's just to put some salt over the top. Okay, that's it. Now we're just gonna pop them in the freezer, and it really only takes like 10-15 minutes for them to fully set, and then you are good to give them a try. Okay. They're good enough. So it's not even like you have to wait that long if you're like hankering for one right away. Okay, so voila, they pop out super easy, or they should. Yeah. And I like to just keep them in a container. That's not going to be a big enough container. In a container, and then just keep them in the fridge to eat all within the span of an hour. I'm just kidding. That was a lot of fat. You don't want to do that. That's too much. But they're really tasty, and they go in our household quite quickly. Usually, because it's Rob and I eating them both, we will double the recipe to make 12 at a time. And that's when it's kind of handy to have those like silicone molds to facilitate it. But these are also super cool. I didn't even mention these. These are silicone muffin containers, but you can use the paper disposable ones if that's more accessible to you as well. Oh yeah, it really doesn't take like any more time to make a double batch. So it's really easy to make large amounts of it as well. And I suppose you could just freeze them too, right? You could just keep them in the freezer to prolong the lifespan of them. But yeah, this is a really, really fast and easy fat bomb recipe, which is the main reason probably why we reach for it so much. It also has like really good macros, which I'm going to go over now. Okay, so I'm going to give you the macros for one of these. And so the recipe I gave you, I break down into 6. And so of that, this is the macros for one of these, one of the 6. So it has about 206 calories, but more importantly, it has 22 grams of fat in this little guy. That's a lot. It's good. It has about 3 grams of total carbs, but about 2 grams of those are fiber. So it really only has around 1 gram of net carbs in it, which is great. One of your probably 20 grams of allotted net carbs per day. And then it has about 2 grams of protein in it. So these are, true to their name, little fat bombs. Bon appetit. A little soft still, but that's kind of nice actually. It's like fudgy. They're really good. But they do melt at room temperature, so you do need to keep them in the fridge for them to not revert to their original form of liquid. I'm all chocolatey, but hope that was helpful in terms of providing a very quick and easy option to increase your fat intake on medical keto. Thank you for watching, and as always, wishing you and your loved ones good health. See you in the next video.